going to call to order our town board meeting for Monday, April 8th, 2019 at 7:02 p.m. First item this evening is roll call. Ms. Iker.
Mayor Christine Melendez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ken Bennett.
Here.
Miles Baker.
Here.
Barry Wilson. Paul Rennemeyer.
Here.
Tom Jones.
Here.
David Soslowski.
Here.
Mr. Rennemeyer, in honor of your birthday, will you please lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item is review of agenda by the board and addition of items of new business to the agenda for consideration. Are there any new items to bring forth for consideration? If not, I would seek a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented tonight.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer with a second from Mr. Bennett approving the agenda as presented. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no. Agenda is approved as presented. Moving on, we have two proclamations that I'll be reading this evening. The first one is a proclamation for Arbor Day. Whereas 147 years ago, J. Sterling Morton proposed a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day is now observed throughout the United States and the world. And whereas, this being the 38th year, the town of Windsor, Colorado has been awarded the Tree City USA Award. And whereas, trees can reduce erosion, cut energy bills, clean the air, produce oxygen, provide habitat for wildlife, and are a renewable resource giving us fuel, lumber, and numerous wood products. And whereas trees enhance the value of our community and are a source of joy and beauty. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Christine Melendez, Mayor of Windsor, along with the Windsor Town Board, proclaim April 19th, 2019 as Arbor Day in the town of Windsor, Colorado. We encourage all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect and plant trees for this and future generations. Do we have somebody from the library board? Would you like to come?
Tree board.
Or the tree board, I'm sorry. The library's next. Tree board, you want to come forward and?
Thank you, Mayor Melendez and members of the town board. I'd like to thank you for supporting Arbor Day and the tree board. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. All members of the town of Windsor are invited to the poster contest, where all the kids from all of the elementary schools and the middle school students who are poets are going to have a poster contest open house at the Art and Culture Center, and the kids are really jazzed about that. If anybody would like to help me count out about 1,300 blue spruce seedlings, we're going to be giving those to the kids at Mountain View and Tozer schools. Town residents may participate in the April 20th tree sale. Our town forester, Ken Kawamura, selected 19 varieties of trees, which should do well here in our town. Sick Tree Day is coming up on the 25th of June, and it's a free service to town residents where they get free advice from the Colorado State University hort experts, the CSU faculty, master gardeners, and industry reps. We'd like to thank you for your support, and the kids are looking forward to receiving their awards from you all at the next town board meeting. Thank you for your support of the tree board.
Would you like to just state your name and who you are, and I'm going to come down and give you your proclamation.
Thank you very much. My name is Sue Bolowski, and I am on the Town of Windsor Tree Board. I joined the tree board less than a year after I moved here from Ohio, so it's really a great group of people to work with. And I live on Sandy Lane here in Windsor. Thank you.
Go Buckeyes.
Okay, we have a second proclamation this evening for National Library Week. Whereas libraries help lives in their communities and schools. And whereas librarians work to meet the changing needs of their communities, including providing resources for all and bringing services outside of library walls. And whereas libraries and librarians can bring together community members, enriching and shaping the community, and address local issues. And whereas librarians are trained, tech-savvy professionals providing technology, training, and access to downloadable content like ebooks. And whereas libraries offer programs to meet their community needs. And whereas libraries continuously grow and evolve in how they provide for the needs of the members of their communities. And whereas libraries, librarians, library workers, and supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Christy Melendez, Mayor of Windsor, along with the Windsor Town Board, proclaim April 7th to the 13th, 2019 as National Library Week. The library encourages all residents to visit the library this week to take advantage of the wonderful library resources available at your library. And I think there's somebody here from the library who might want to get up and speak this evening.
Ann Kling, Director of the Clearview Library District, 720 3rd Street, Windsor, Colorado. And I have with me our Vice President and our Treasurer. Introduce yourselves.
Good evening again. Ian Whittington with the Clearview Board.
Hi, I'm Katie Shearer. I'm the Vice President of the Board.
So we thank you for your support for our amazing library district in Windsor. And we have a couple of events we want to tell you about. Katie's going to present a challenge to you, so she'll talk about the challenge.
I have the two best topics in the world to talk about. One is chili, and the other one is Star Wars. So on May the 4th, in the park is going to be the Bookmobile Days, and so since it's May the 4th, the theme is May the 4th be with you. We invite the board to cook up a pot of chili to represent the board. We're asking other entities in town. Private citizens can do it as well, and we'll be out there, have a great contest. I think this is our third year that we have done it. So you can register online, or you can just give Ann a call and let them know who's going to cook up the pot of chili and be the big winner.
And our other event is a leadership program that came out of the extreme interest we had in library board positions this year. We had 21 people. So this is a 7-month, once-a-month course all about the library district, and we're hoping that you will promote that to your constituents or maybe sign up for it yourself. It's from 9 to 12 once a month, and we'll be talking everything about the district, from its governance to the resources we provide to the citizens. So it's on our website, and the registration ends on the 23rd, and the first session will be the first weekend in June. Thank you.
Moving on to item 5, board liaison reports. Town Board Member Baker, Tree Board and Historic Preservation Commission.
Thank you very much. The Tree Board met on March 26th at the Recreation Center, and they worked on wrapping up their Arbor Day plan. So if people want to get out their calendars, phones, I will put out a list of the activities going on. April 11th from 5:30 to 7 is an open house for the poster contest at the Art and Heritage Building. April 19th is Arbor Day, and they're having Arbor Day celebrations at Tozer Elementary from 8:30 to 9:15, and Mountain View from 10 to 10:30. The mayor will be there presenting, and I believe Smokey the Bear will be there as usual. April 20th is the tree sale, and you can pick your trees up at 190 North 8th Street. Trees are on sale right now at the Recreation Center. April 22nd, we will be having the poster and poetry contest winners here at the Town Board Chambers and recognize them during our board meeting. And as mentioned, June 25th is Sick Tree Day. The board, with many tree care and horticulture professionals, will visit 50-plus homes on Tuesday evening to diagnose any trees and offer advice on sick trees. So you can call the Recreation Center to set up an appointment for that. And the Historic Preservation Commission will be meeting this Wednesday, April 10th at 5:45.
Thank
That's it.
you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bennett, Water and Sewer Board.
The Water and Sewer Board will meet this Wednesday morning at 6:30 a.m. Anyone who's up and about to join us, you're welcome. The topics are going to include three things. First of all, water education, water conservation education in terms of how to get to the HOAs and metro districts. The town has a number of measures within the town, but we don't have a lot of authority or influence over metro districts and HOAs, and that's a significant amount of water. So the challenge is how do you get to the proper people in the metro districts and HOAs to help them with water conservation measures. They'll also be doing a water supply update, and then they'll be talking about coordinating two tours, one to the Bellevue Water Treatment Plant, and then the other is to the Windsor Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Okay. Town Board Member Rennemeyer, Chamber of Commerce.
Well, some of you may or may not be aware, on March 1st, the Chamber of Commerce lost our executive director. She died tragically in her sleep. And so today, we actually finally interviewed 6 candidates over 7 hours today. And we do not have a complete final decision of the 2 finalists out of the final 6, as we're reviewing references on both of the finalists. So I hope to, by our next board meeting, be able to tell you who the next executive director of the Chamber of Commerce will be.
Great. Town Board Member Jones, Windsor Housing Authority, Great Western Trail Authority.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Great Western Trail Authority is just about ready to go to bid for completing the final segment of the trail between Severance and Eaton, which is a 7-mile stretch. We have enlisted the help of the engineering department here, Dennis Wagner and Omar, to help us through the bidding process. We'll be advertising through the town website, and that will probably take place in the next 2 to 3 weeks sometime. The Housing Authority, representatives of the Housing Authority, Windsor Housing Authority, representatives from Loveland Housing Authority, and some Windsor Town Board members are going to attend the Severance Town Board meeting tomorrow night. Severance is interested in possibly joining with Windsor and forming a single housing authority for both towns. And so they have a lot of questions, and we'll try to get them answered tomorrow night. And that's it.
Okay. Town Board Member Kozlowski, Clearview Library Board and Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. The Clearview Library is here, I believe, en masse, and I'm not sure. I think the blue shirts must have something to do with...
You have the blue and red shirts, the super library shirts, and then, Rio, what's your shirt?
the green.
It's a Let's Grow Together shirt.
So acknowledge you being here today, and congratulations on National Library Week. I really have nothing to add that Ms. Kling has not already reminded the residents in terms of upcoming library events. I do have to talk to my wife about making chili. We'll have to see if that's how it works out. With respect to the Planning Commission, there were no communications from the Planning Commission to the board. I did speak to the commission and just alert them with the Senate Bill 181 passing, and now on the governor's desk, there will likely be an impact on Windsor's land use codes as it relates to oil and gas development. Obviously, that bill would give Windsor a lot more authority than it has today. And further, the new rules that will have to be adopted by the new COGCC may in turn impact even those land use codes that we have today for conditional use. So that will be something we'll have to watch closely, probably to coordinate efforts between the Planning Commission and the board with respect to land use code. Thank you.
Okay. And I have the Downtown Development Authority. They are meeting a week early So they are meeting this week, this Wednesday, in the downstairs chambers at 7:30 a.m. And North Front Range MPO, they did meet on April 4th. Just a couple of highlights from that meeting. First of all, we did say goodbye to Mayor Pro Tem Jerry Horek. Jerry has been on the council and numerous years, numerous times, but he returned to the council back in 2014. So we said farewell to him, although I don't think that it's goodbye. I think he will return in some other shape and form. We looked at the Colorado 257 and Colorado 392 network feasibility study. Many of our folks in our community turned out for that feasibility study that was held at the fire station. We got some community survey results from that. We had good participation. They collected some good data and information. So the next steps are that they're going to continue to go through this study, and then we hope that by June that they will be coming forth with some kind of recommendations to us and some final determination as to what they have found out about the reality of maybe reconfiguring those two major corridors and roadways. We did pass a couple of resolutions. We passed Resolution 2019-06. The reason why I bring up that resolution is because there are two important components that affect Windsor in that. And first of all was the federal build was we revised CDOT's North I-25 design build project. We added $20 million of the federal build grant funds in fiscal year 19, rolling $2 million federal STP funds from the I-25 Crossroads project, which will reduce $88 million in the state funds from the Senate Bill 267. Again, that's in order to accommodate all those needs that we are seeing and what we want to have and done and accomplished on the I-25 corridor. There were also two local projects that we accommodated for. One was we added Timnitz Harmony widening the 3 Bell Parkway to the Latham Parkway project, funded with $7,200 with local funds in the fiscal year 19. And we added Windsor's Harmony widening Latham Parkway to Weld County Road 15 project with $6,400 of local funds for fiscal year 2019. We also passed Resolution 2019-07. Again, what that did is that allowed a couple of delays on some projects who were asking for some delays. One was the Loveland US 287 and US 34, and then a portion of Weld County's purchase for CNG vehicles. Upcoming in the next MPO meeting, we had been asked to take a look at Rule 179B, as well as we are going to be receiving a Van Gogh presentation about the current Van Gogh, our Van Gogh company that we have, that we oversee, and how that is coming along. That concludes my reports. So we'll turn to our next item under item 6, which is under public invited to be heard. This is for individuals who are wishing to address the board on a non-agenda item. This would be your time. I see many of you, some of these look like they are on an agenda item, but when I call your name, you're requested to come up to the front, state your name and address for the record. Then the green light will turn on and you will have 3 minutes to move forward and speak to the council at that time. So I'll call out your name, but you can let me know if you want to wait and discuss this after we open the public hearing on this particular agenda item. So I have a Mike Schroeder. I'm going to wait. You're going to wait, okay. And then it looks like a TD Graham, and it looks like you wanted to talk on the okay? Rich Stover, Commercial Corridor Plan. Is that on the agenda item, or do you wish to speak on something else? Okay. Okay. Banshire? Does that look like Banshire? Looks like it's the Commercial Corridor Plan. And a Linda Cuck? Gonna wait, okay. We already heard from her and her. John Petrick Rio? Or Jen? Maybe a Jen. Jen Petrick?
Yeah, they're gone.
Okay, did you want to talk on the agenda item?
No, those are the people that were wearing the green shirt.
Oh, that's them, okay, okay. Okay, so is there anybody else then who wanted to address the board on a non-agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we will move on then up to our agenda under item B, under the consent calendar, which we have 6 items this evening on the consent calendar. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer with a second from Dr. Jones approving the consent calendar as presented. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. Consent calendar is approved unanimously as presented. Moving on then to item C, official board action. First item this evening is an ordinance. Ordinance number 2019-1586. An ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the Windsor Municipal Code with respect to the establishment of municipal separate storm sewer system regulations. This is second reading, legislative action, and Ms. Hageman will give us presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Good to see you again. Well, pursuant to the first reading on this subject on March 25th, this is the second reading of the amendment to Chapter 13 of the Municipal Code, titled Article 5, Stormwater Quality. All board members were present at the last meeting on this subject and voted yes to pass this ordinance. As you know, the amendment will align the town's municipal code with the requirements of the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, or MS4, permit, which was issued to the town of Windsor by the state in compliance with the Colorado Water Quality Act and the Federal Water Pollution Control Act. It is recommended that this ordinance is in place prior to the compliance schedule deadlines of July of this year to allow the town to implement guidance and finish preparations so that we can ensure compliance in a timely manner. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? I believe at the first presentation, I think there was a question asked about if you'd been able to deliver to the development community. And has that been completed at this point in time? Or?
No, ma'am. I'm still working
Okay.
on a lot of the background documents with planning and with engineering to make sure that we have all the pieces in place before I do present this program to them.
Okay. Will they all have been presented to by the time, I mean, does this take effect after we vote on it this evening, or does it take effect in July?
Well, the compliance deadline is July. Okay, we have to have the construction sites program up and running, and we have to be tracking what we're doing in that program starting July. If we get going in May, that gives us a couple of months to work the bugs out and potentially, find out what isn't working on both sides of the program, all sides of the program, if you will.
So there's still some opportunity to be somewhat flexible then?
Well, the municipal code does say that, in some regards with the construction sites program, that there will be direction given by the director, who is the town manager or his assigns. So in that regard, our construction sites program that we're putting together can be molded a little bit more. But what is in the code, no. My understanding anyway, that we can't really change what's in the code.
Any additional questions? Is there
So-
anybody, would we take?
Yes, it's second reading.
Is Is there anybody who wished to address the board on this agenda item? This would be the time to move forward. Okay, seeing none, if there's no further questions, I would call for the question or seek a motion for one of my board members.
Madam Mayor, I move the board approve ordinance number 2019-1586. Second.
Motion on the floor for Mr. Kozlowski with a second for Mr. Rennemeyer, approving ordinance 2019-1586. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the ordinance passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 2, resolution number 2019-32. Resolution approving a final multifamily site plan, Lakeview addition to the Town of Windsor, fourth filing, Lot 2. Quasi judicial with Ms. Malone giving presentation. Ms. Malone.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Board. The request before you is for a multifamily final site plan, Lakeview Addition, fourth filing, Lot 2. This has been reviewed in accordance with the municipal code. Just to point out, this is the only site plan that does go through a resolution and a preliminary site plan approval through the Planning Commission, followed by a final site plan recommendation from Planning Commission to the Town Board for ultimately approval. The site is located just west of Windsor Lake, east of 7th Street and 257, north of Cedar. It is zoned residential multifamily, just north of Central Business. The site previously had a single-family home that was built in 1957, and that has since been demolished. That was 2014, and the property has remained vacant since that time. The applicant is proposing 6 units. They are approximately 900 square feet per unit. The criteria here is what is in the code, and this just shows what the applicant is proposing and what is required. And so the site plan either meets or exceeds the municipal code requirements. This is the site plan is showing the one building proposed. There is a carport on the north side, and the applicant will also be improving the alley shown here on the west side that is shared with a fourplex to the west. And the landscape plan, building elevations, covered parking and alley improvements. They will have open fencing adjacent to the open space in the lake. And the plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan, growth framework, residential areas framework. And at the April 3rd meeting, the Planning Commission forwarded to the Town Board a recommendation of approval for the final site plan as submitted, with the following conditions: that Planning Commission and staff comments be addressed, and that the town standard site development agreement is executed. Staff requests that the following be entered into the record: the resolution, application supplemental materials, staff memorandum, supporting documents, and the recommendation. And the approval criteria shown here. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Kozlowski, did you need to read your statement on this one?
This
or
is
just
the hearing, only in the public hearing on the next matter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? If there are no questions, is there a motion to move forward?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 2019-32.
Second.
A motion on the floor from Mr. Bennett with a second from Mr. Rennemeyer approving resolution 2019-32. All in favor signify with yes, opposed no. and the resolution passes unanimously. Moving on to item 3, a public hearing for a height review. Highland Meadows Golf Course Subdivision, 8th filing, Lot 6, Dennis Fulgenzi, the applicant, Kathy Mathis, TV Group, the applicant's representative. Quasi judicial, Mr. Hornbeck will give presentation, and I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer, with a second from Dr. Jones to open public hearing. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. Public hearing is now open.
Madam Mayor?
Oh, we've got, okay.
Yeah, we have to go. Because I'm in association with the applicant, I need to recluse myself from this item as well as item number 4 on the agenda.
And Madam Mayor, for the record, I'd like to point out that in my capacity as a town board liaison to the Planning Commission, I was present at last week's Planning Commission meeting during which this matter was previously presented. I wish to state that my participation in Planning Commission proceedings in no way influenced me in my capacity as a town board member. I will make my decision this evening and cast my vote based solely on the evidence presented during this public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hornbeck.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. This height review has been submitted for the property that is located to the northwest of Kirk and Stick Drive and Highland Meadows Parkway. The subject property is zoned residential mixed use. The municipal code outlines the criteria for a height modification, including views, light and shadow, privacy, and neighborhood scale. The proposed building height will have a maximum peak height of 39 feet, while the RMU zone district has a maximum of 35 feet. So they are looking to exceed the maximum by 4 feet. The renderings of the proposed building have been provided by the applicant, showing the building. We've also submitted a shadow study showing the impact on the in the winter, December 21st at 3 p.m., as well as 9 a.m. The proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, particularly the Chapter 5B growth framework. And it is also in conformance with the municipal code requirements regarding the height modifications. The Planning Commission did forward a recommendation of approval at their April 3rd, 2019 meeting for the height not to exceed 40 feet in order to allow for variation in the field during construction, subject to compliance with all building and fire code requirements. I do want to point out, based on some public comments received during the Planning Commission, that the item before you is only for the height. It's not related to the site plan, which will be administratively reviewed, but that has not, that process has just begun, so that they wanted to get the height review done first. Staff requests the following be entered into the record: the application and supplemental materials, staff memo and supporting documents, the testimony received during public hearing, and recommendation. And again, the approval criteria are before you, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Are there any questions? Mr. Kozlowski.
Did you?
I have one, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding what we're being asked to do. Because if I believe that this is a use by right with respect to the current zoning in this particular location.
Correct, it's allowed use.
The building otherwise meets all the setback and design requirements. The only issue before us is 3-inch difference between code permitted and the proposed building.
It's the 4-foot difference.
4 foot. So when we're being asked to look through these criteria, views, lights and shadow, et cetera, it's primarily with respect to that 4-foot difference.
Correct. The Planning Commission did approve a waiver to the commercial corridor plan to allow for use of architectural grade metal on prominent building facades, but again, that was approved by Planning Commission, so that's not really for your consideration.
Mr. Rennemeyer, did you have a question?
We don't normally see shadow studies very often. Is that due to the height?
It's only for height reviews where it's required.
Height reviews?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I can't remember the last time we saw a shadow study.
Any other questions?
I guess, I want to go back. You had an image of the building, which I assume is as proposed, and the one that kind of showed the view. I'm sorry, go back there, that one. So that's the view as proposed, right?
That's, yes, the rendering submitted by the applicant showing the proposed building.
So if they were following the code requirement, it would be 4 feet lower than that.
Correct, yeah.
Which it doesn't look like it would be material, it's just hard to. Okay, thank you.
And is the applicant
They are
present this
present,
evening?
yes.
Did they want to say anything before we open it up to, did you have anything further to add? Okay. Yes. State your name and address for the record, and then if there's anything further you wanted to add.
My name is Dennis Fulgenzi. Live here in Windsor as well. I'm Durham Port. I've been managing as well as tennis director since 2010. And the requirement of 4 feet, we could see it is gable. Within the gable, the top peak of it, to be USTA, United States Tennis Association certified, we have to be 38 feet from above the net to be proper clearance. And that's the reason why we're asking for that variance. At this point, it's not a 39-foot building across, obviously, as you can see, and some of the technical, as you're asking, what are you able to review? Some of the detailed drawings does state exactly what's over that 35 feet.
Okay.
I have
Are there any questions for
Yeah.
the applicant, Mr. Baker?
What is a USTA event? Is that?
It's a sanctioned event, which would be a
Can you
tournament.
just move a little bit closer so they catch you?
Yes, sorry
thank
about
you.
that. 35, I apologize. A USTA event would be a tournament that we would host, and to be a sanctioned tournament to be approved that's the requirement. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to be shooting and tape measure and so forth with it, but it's kind of nice to have a state of the art facility and don't be behind the 8 ball in regards to that height.
Is that amateur?
It's actually professional. It's actually professional all the way across the board, is what it is.
Okay.
So it could be as recreational as well as amateurs.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, I'm no builder or developer, and I'll probably get laughed out of here, but is there any way to lower the land and start from a lower spot?
If I could probably bring in the owner, John Turner, to be answering some of those questions dealing with when we start getting into that. I'm new to the development side as far as when you start reducing the size of the
Hi, John Turner, 6379 Crooked Stick. Yeah, the site does slope down, and the way the town measures it, like safe built and stuff, and it's over the whole, the longest one. And we are recessing the building into the site. So that's
Moving
the
it
question.
back in the site.
It's set into this is the lowest part of the ground, and it's lower than the power to play site. So this is very consistent with the roof lines. In fact, well, it's lower. So we went to match that. So the power to play site's right there too. Also, this was a piece of property we agreed to go in the corridor plan, and it's not in the corridor by definition, but this was a covenant that we put on ourselves. And so there was another thing that was brought up previously about the architectural grade. There's just a trim area of non-architectural grade aluminum, our metal. All the rest of it is architectural grade metal. So.
Any additional questions?
Mr. Turner, how tall is power to play?
think it's 40 feet.
40?
I don't remember it off the top, but I'm pretty sure it's 40 feet. And that's where they built it too low, and we had about a 8-month delay because the architect didn't build it to what the plans were originally. So then they came back and added on 8 feet. So there was a big delay in that project, so.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Mr. Turner, I recall that we saw some kind of indoor tennis something years ago, now that I'm being on my 10-year here. Does this take the place of that previous?
It's almost identical. Before that was 4 courts and a workout facility. We went to 5 courts and pulled the workout facility. There'll be less parking demands on that. The gymnasium space has a lot more traffic and parking required. This is a straight 5 indoor courts and 2 outdoor courts on this particular site plan. This expired. This got approved in 2015, and we just had other priorities we were working on and couldn't do it, so we're trying to revive this approval. We added a court. We got it further away from the lot to the north.
So it's in the similar vicinity of the previous?
Almost identical. In fact, the site plan, we didn't even adjust the site plan much. Where we had the gymnasium inside, we added another, and that allows 5 courts, which allows another thing, and there's quite a few tennis players here tonight, where it allows the 5 matches and it allows us to do bigger tournaments. So it's a function of how tournaments are run.
So this is new and improved?
Yeah, I believe, and with less impact on the neighborhood. But it's a very consistent building. In fact, I don't know if the building is different from the outside elevations. It is a little bit, but not much. It's very consistent to what we got approved previously. The previous planning director requested that I remove the bubble, and this was the precipice for that. We're going to move it down here. This is the lowest part of what we call Tract H, where it has the least impact.
Okay. Any additional questions before we open it up to the public? Thank you. So I'm gonna move forward, and I'll call those folks who have first and foremost signed in. Then we'll open it up to anybody else who wish to also. So the first one speak. So the first person is Mike Schroeder.
Can I go first?
Yeah, sure. Yes. Are you Rich Stover?
I'm Rich.
Okay.
Got extras? Obviously, there's no way that I'm going to get through all the documentation, so it's a summary of a lot of those points. But good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Windsor Town Board. My name is Rich Stover. I live at 5802 Bromborough Drive. I'd like to share my thoughts regarding the development of the proposed tennis facility and power to play located off Highland Meadows Drive in Crooked Stick. A commercial corridor plan that encompasses this area was adopted in 2010. This plan is an organized approach for commercial development that provides for cohesive, well-planned, and visually appealing development along the commercial corridor. Time restraints keep me from reading the plan to you, but I've provided copies of the excerpts as well as my remarks. The baseline criteria of the commercial corridor plan should be adhered to and not be changed by waiver. If we go to the tennis facility, the waiver request was submitted in 2014. That waiver request was regarding metal panels on moving from a non-prominent to a prominent side, and no mention of vertical rib panels. And if you look at the allowable heights in the commercial corridor plan, they are more restrictive than the zoning plan, and according to the corridor plan, that the more restrictive standard applies. So you've got 30 feet that's allowed, and I'm sure there was some intent on why you would want 30 feet in that commercial corridor, and now you're bumping it up to 40 feet. It seems just we're ratcheting a lot of buildings along the commercial corridor. And then there's also a curb cut proposed along Highland Meadows Parkway that would have to be considered for traffic pattern and everything. The big concern is just the overall conceptual plan. You know, what's the vision for vehicular ingress, egress over the entire development? I didn't see in any of the plans where you see the arterials connected and how all that traffic flows out of there. And just as a summary, we're homeowners that care about Windsor and Highland Meadows, the way it looks today and what it will look like in the future. We have major investments in our homes, and we're asking that you, our representatives, take a look carefully at development and redevelopment plans. We ask that you ensure developers are building for the beauty and well-being of our community. We ask that you hold developers accountable for complying with the commercial corridor plan as originally intended. I encourage you to read through my full detailed comments to help you understand the full impact. And I made it with 4 seconds to spare, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Mike Schroeder? Sure.
Good evening, Mayor, board members. May I start? My name is Tim Graham. I live at 5808 Crooked Stick Drive. We're within 300 feet of the proposed project. The Planning Commission has voted to approve a maximum height of 40 feet or more if needed if construction conditions change in the field. This exceeds the I-25 corridor regulation by at least 10 feet according to the map which governs the district. Will this not further reinforce the precedent already set to exceed the maximum height and allow all developers the right to build to 40 feet or more in this district? Should we not have consistent building heights along Highland Meadows Parkway, one of our town's most important thoroughfares? It is not the intent of these regulations to protect and enhance property values and ensure quality development. It is doubtful we can achieve these goals with multiple building heights that far exceed the height of nearby residential properties. The I-25 corridor regulations state that vertical ribbed metal siding shall be prohibited. A waiver may be granted only if strict application of the standard will result in extraordinary practical difficulties or undue hardship. There's been no justification offered that I've seen to warrant this. Parking and traffic safety for all residents and visitors is of utmost concern. Power to Play is extremely underserved by available on-site parking. This is significant because construction of the tennis facility could make parking in the neighborhood far worse if not properly planned. There is overflow parking for Power to Play on the adjacent soil lot at the corner with Fairgrounds. This corner is planned for development this year with 5 buildings and over 30,000 square foot of space. Where will the parking be for Power to Play after that is developed? We are not opposed to the development of a tennis facility at this location per se. It would appear that this type of use could be a good fit for the neighborhood under the following conditions. Maintain the height of the structure per the regulation. Ensure quality building materials are used per the regulation, especially on the promenade elevation facing Highland Meadows Parkway. Require that a condition of approval is the removal of the existing temporary tennis facility upon completion of the new building. Thank you, that's all I have.
Is there anybody who'd like to go next? That would be the time.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, for hearing our comments. We greatly appreciate it at this time. I think the points that Rich Stover and Tim Grand both made are very solid and valid points and should be highly considered by this board. So, Rich and Tim, thank you so much.
You need to state your name and address for the
My name is Mike Schroeder. I live at 5919 Bromborough Drive. With what I just said, again, we're not crying over spilt milk. We don't disapprove of the tennis facility. We're all aware of development happening in our neighborhood, but we want the development to apply by the codes and regulations, and we hope that the council will follow that so it does not impact our neighborhood in a poor way. I disagree with the fact that the east side is a non-prominent site. It faces our neighborhood and it has a high impact. So again, what height are we going for? 30 feet or 35 feet, whichever is in the corridor plan or in the RMU plan. And to exceed it to 40 feet, I disagree with strongly. I'm just going to make a few points. Again, you know, how is this going to impact the neighborhood? We want a building that looks and accompanies our neighborhoods strongly. The Power to Play building, I think, is something that we dislike, and that's why we're so passionate about coming here and talking to you about this tennis facility. Again, I don't know which zoning district we're using in height between 30 and 35 feet. What is the final building exterior going to look like, and how is it going to impact our neighborhood? I will make a comment in regards to parking. The overflow from the Power to Play is the parking is very limited, and we get overflow, which will overflow into the tennis facility. And the tennis facility, I think, is under-parked for having national sanction events at it. The curb cut on Highlands Meadow, I don't see any advantage in that, because if we have traffic, since that's a right in and a right out, if people come out and want to go north, their only way of going is turning south on Highlands Meadow, and are they going to attempt to try and make a U-turn and head up north, which will cause safety issues? So that's a strong consideration in regards to how the parking is laid out. Power to Play has one entrance in and one entrance out. I don't know why the tennis facility can't just have one entrance in and one entrance out. So thank you for listening to me. I greatly appreciate it.
Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board on this agenda item? Seeing none, I have a couple of additional questions. Can you clarify the question about the zoning, that issue, which zone?
Yeah, so
the corridor plan or the zoning?
Right, so there's a few different overlapping
Okay.
standards that could potentially apply to this property. The zoning is residential mixed use, which has a 35-foot maximum height. There is the commercial corridor plan, which I'll run through how that applies to this property. It is a little bit complicated. The property is not within the commercial corridor plan. With, I believe it was the fourth filing of Highland Meadows Golf Course in that development agreement, the developer agreed to adhere to either the commercial corridor plan or what's called the Tract H design standard, which is very similar. However, it does not have the 35-foot height or 30-foot height restriction. So in summary, I guess, the commercial corridor plan or Tract H would apply. Tract H design standards would apply. However, that does not restrict the height. So it goes back to the zoning, which is RMU, which is 35. There is also the I-25 corridor plan. The way that's worded, it was a regional effort with multiple jurisdictions along I-25. Some jurisdictions, including Windsor, adopted that plan, which has guidelines and standards. There's, I believe, a recommendation for height, but it defers to local municipality for height. So bottom line, it's the RMU zone controls, and it's the 35 feet.
Okay, so, and they're asking for a variance of 4 feet, and it would not allow them, and according, I guess, what they're asking for is not to exceed 40, so it couldn't go 45 or even 41.
Right.
If we pass this, it would have to stay at 40 or below, correct?
Right. They requested 39. 40 was a suggestion on staff's part to allow for any variations in the field, so they wouldn't have to come back if they were 2 inches over.
And what does an applicant have to show to get a height variance?
There's the 4 criteria.
And just go over those again. Right there,
Crystal,
those
would you-
4 things.
So it's the views, light and shadow, privacy, and neighborhood scale are the criteria that are in the municipal code for the height review.
And how many parking spaces are being allocated to this particular site?
I'm not sure at this time.
110. Sorry about that. 110.
Do you want to?
Can you come forward so that everybody can, 110?
110. And tennis is not like power to play. Tennis, we have 4 people on a tennis court. We have, when you have group settings, you're looking at 6 people on a tennis court. It is not to the magnitude of bringing in thousands or hundreds of people over the weekend and so forth. It's a whole nother spectrum.
They can't hear.
It's a whole nother sport where we're only putting for 5 tennis courts. There's 4 people that are obviously able to play. If it's a group setting, if it's drills, so forth, the maximum usually is 6, maybe 8. So 40 people maximum inside that facility. It's not going to be a hundreds of people. We will not be hosting national events. This is it's within the Colorado Tennis Association just to be able to have an indoor tennis facility that actually meets the code, that meets the USTA regulation is what we're trying to do.
If I could add to that, Madam Mayor, as I referenced earlier, the review before you is only for the height. There will be a site plan. It's a qualified commercial site plan. So that will be administratively reviewed, and it will be included in your packet materials where you would be able to forward any comments or concerns to staff. I anticipate that would be included in the next packet 2 weeks from tonight. So we can certainly look at parking and access with that review, but that's not a part of the height review tonight.
So, Mr. McCarter, all we are to evaluate this evening is the height requirement. So some of these, other things about what the building is being constructed for, that's not part of the consideration of what we're looking at this evening?
That's right. What's before you tonight is only the height modification, and the criteria is displayed up on your screens and up on the wall behind you. So the concerns with parking and access, the exterior finish on the building appears to have been subject to a waiver by the Planning Commission, but it sounds to me like the concerns about parking and traffic can be addressed in the administrative planning process, but not here tonight.
Okay, Mr.
Question
Baker.
for, I guess, staff. The Planning Commission can grant that waiver? I guess that's within their purview. They did it.
Correct. There's criteria within the corridor plan for Planning Commission granting a waiver.
Okay.
Dr. Jones?
Can we get to see this again before it's given final approval? There are concerns about materials. Some of these folks don't think they meet the criteria. Parking's a concern. You said 8 to 10 people or what, but you're going to have spectators there as well, correct? So you're allowing, have to allow for that. So.
Right. So you will not see this in a formal presentation. It would be a communications item, presumably in 2 weeks. That would be in your packet, where you could then communicate.
There would be a site plan that, as we're doing now, it would be at the end of our packet just to review. And
Correct.
if you had comments or questions, to provide those to you at that time.
Correct.
Okay. Did anybody else have any questions?
Well, I guess just to clarify,
Mr. Zaslowski.
because certainly, one of the things we heard about was the architectural grade metal. But that's probably, has that already been approved, or?
Planning Commission did
by the
approve that,
planning,
yes.
right? So even if that showed up on the drawings we saw later, that has already been adopted or permitted, if you will.
Correct.
Right, okay. So,
May I quickly ask a question, because additional information was just added to what we talked about?
Okay. You need to step forward.
Rich Stover, I live at 5802 Brombarrel Drive in Highland Meadows. What I would request is that somebody review the commercial corridor plan, because what is on your website in the municipal code is very clear on where that corridor plan exists today. And then what I just heard the gentleman say, it's very convenient to go between RMU and corridor plan, whichever fits for the development. And it should be, the corridor plan is very clear that if it supersedes zoning, then it's more stringent. So I just asked to review it. Thank you.
We can't take questions outside when you're down like that. So if you. Is he asking to come back?
You just need to come
You
forward.
need to come forward.
Again, my name is Mike Schroeder. I live at 5919 Brownsboro. The gentleman who is the applicant just said that we are not going to hold sanctioned events. He says we have 40 people maximum. So if he's not going to hold sanctioned events, why do we need a height increase to adjust to the National Tennis Association? So then it should remain at either the 30 or the 35 foot. That's the only point I wanted to make.
I think he said national events, not sanctioned.
Well,
He's right here. We'll bring him right back up and clarify.
Dennis Fulgenzi again. That is correct. It's national events. We're not hosting, we're not big enough to be doing national events. That's not our objective. It's within the Colorado Tennis Association under the umbrella of USTA. It's simple junior events, adults events, and it is recreational. Mr. Baker, when you were asking that question, a lot of the tennis players here are recreational tennis players, but they are competitive, and when we bring in a tournament, that's what they're saying. The other thing is you do need height when you want to try to lob the ball. The worst thing is to be known, that facility that, you try to lob the ball and it's going to hit the roof, is kind of along those same lines.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you have anything to clarify the previous, or Mr. Hornbeck, about the commercial corridor plan?
I don't have anything to add unless there's a specific question from the board.
Okay. Then, if there is no further questions from the board, I would seek a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer with a second from Mr. Baker to close public hearing. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no. Public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item 4, resolution number 2019-33. Resolution regarding height review, Highland Meadows Golf Course Subdivision, 8th filing, Lot 6, Dennis Fulgenzi, applicant, Kathy Mathis TV Group, the applicant's representative. Quasi judicial, Mr. Hornbeck, anything further?
Nothing further.
We have everything we need for the record, Mr. McCarter?
It would appear so.
Okay. Anything further from the board?
I guess,
Yes.
I guess if I may, just kind of making a comment, and I'm asked, can you put back up on this screen the criteria that we were used to evaluate? Thank you. Thank you. It seems like the primary issue here, since we're not talking about construction materials, is really the view. in the difference between 35, 40. So I'm just focusing my thoughts on that. And I guess the RMU requirements apply, is what I heard you say.
Correct.
But it seems like from the standpoint of the view, if you look at that picture, the difference between the 35-foot RMU and the permitted 40 is not that significant, especially where it's only a peak at the building and not the total building, 40 feet across. That's kind of guiding my thinking on it.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Baker?
Yeah, I think I agree with Mr. Slazowski. It's, you know, I think the public brought up a lot of good points tonight about this, but I feel that our focus is pretty narrow on what we're approving tonight, and you know, having the shadow display helped a lot. We, like Mr. Rennemeyer said, we haven't seen that, so having a pushback on the property I think helped a lot. But I think it's clear that there's other concerns out there, but based on our criteria tonight, I think it kind of fits the request.
Okay, anything else? Then is there a motion?
Good.
I was waiting for you. You're not looking at your screen. Madam Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 2019-33.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer with a second from Dr. Jones approving resolution 2019-33. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the resolution carries unanimously 5-0. Would you like to go get Mr. Bennett? Moving on to item 5, resolution number 2019-34. Resolution of the Town Board of the Town of Windsor, State of Colorado, in support of the Wyland Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. Ms. Humphries.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Town Board. Again, tonight before you is a resolution supporting the National Wyland Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. By taking part, the town is joining communities across the country, asking residents to make a long-term commitment to manage water resources more wisely. This is a nonprofit national community service campaign that encourages leaders to inspire their residents to make a series of simple pledges at mywaterpledge.com to use water more efficiently, reduce pollution, and save energy. The challenge runs from April 1st to the 30th. Windsor is competing in the category of the 5,000 to 29,999 population. Very precise, right? And as of today, we are ranked 498. Just a reminder, residents in cities with the highest percentage of participants in their population category have a chance to win various prizes, including $3,000 to put towards their utility home bills and irrigation smart controllers. They're just some of those examples. Last year, residents from over 4,800 states or cities in all 50 states pledged to reduce their annual consumption of fresh water by 3 billion gallons, reduced waste sent to landfills by 79.9 million pounds, and prevented more than 177,000 pounds of hazardous waste from entering our watersheds. So with that said, staff is recommending adoption of the resolution. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions? Mr. Kozlowski.
Who is Wyland? I thought this was going to be the Melendez water. Who is this Wyland?
Wyland, from my understanding, is a artist based out of Florida, and his water conservation and the environment is very near and dear to his heart. I should have been thinking I actually have one of his paintings myself. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He does the whale paintings, right?
Yeah, the whale ones are dolphins, all that kind of stuff too. So. Yeah.
And Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I would just ask, so to be clear, this is open to all Windsor residents, or you have to be a Windsor water customer?
All Windsor residents, please.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So we really want to encourage you to go to, what's the website? Do you have it right there?
mywaterpledge.com.
Go to mywaterpledge.com and sign up. We want to be doing better than, what did you say, 498?
498, yeah.
I think we did better than that last
Way
year.
better.
I think we're about
We were like the 4th or 14th,
five.
something with a 4, I want to say, so.
What would our ranking be if we were in the over 30,000 category?
I don't know.
Great
But go to
question.
mywaterpledge.com and take the pledge. It's simple, it's easy, and it's good for everybody, but mostly it's good for our community. So we encourage you all to do that, and thank you for bringing this before us this evening. And is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll move that the board pass resolution number 2019-34.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Kozlowski with a second from Mr. Baker approving resolution 2019-34. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you. Communications from our town attorney.
Just a reminder that we are actually in recess of your special meeting, and so when we're done with this meeting, we will reconvene that meeting for the purpose of calling an executive session.
Okay. Communications from town staff. Ms. Humphries, anything further? Mr. Lucas? Anything further, Mr. Hornbeck? Okay, please move forward.
Oh, no, we've already voted.
Just want to be precise. And I lost part of my computer too, so I'm looking for that up here. Just back to the height question, so I may have misspoke slightly. The commercial corridor plan does extend 1 mile from I-25, so this site is within that area. The previous application was within that area. However, the corridor plan does state, refers back to the zoning for the height. So the plan does apply, the height does not, just to clarify.
Which is why it needed the.
Which was 35 feet versus 30.
Okay, thank you.
That's all.
That's all? Okay.
There's mine.
Anything, okay, do we have anything from our chief this evening? Okay. There are several site plans in our packet this evening. Make sure you take a look and give comment if you have comment for that. Communications from our town manager.
I just want to mention that our planner had an emergency appendectomy, Scott Ballstad did this weekend, so he's fine. I mean, he's, we just got Dean back like 3 hours ago, and now Scott's going down. So I'm going to wish him a speedy recovery. I hope he gets back next week, and we're already a little bit short with planning staff, so we're hoping all the developers calm down for a couple weeks while we get caught up. That's
I'm
it.
sure he's watching tonight.
Yeah, with the NCAA tournament on, or this. Popcorn and 2 screens going to the same.
You're right, I'm sure he's watching this tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Communications from town board.
I have a couple of things I just want
Okay.
to share. For the last few months, I've been on the board for Bright Futures, and I'm bringing it up now because the executive director, Sarah Rice, will be with us on May 6th. So I just want to give the board a little bit of background about it. It's a program that started 3 years ago in Weld County. On the board, representing from Ames, representing from Greeley City Council, myself, Rich Werner from upstate Colorado, which is kind of significant because the purpose of this program is to help develop a workforce for economic development in our region. Right now, there's about 251 Windsor students who are taking advantage of it. What the program does is it provides a small scholarship to any high school graduate from any Weld County school. Sarah Rice, the new executive director, just came on 2 months ago. She's working on some administrative improvements in terms of the application and data collection and so forth. We are working on data collection. We have at this point, we know what fields of study the students have been enrolled in. The next step will be to determine where they're actually employed so we can evaluate how effective the program is being. Are we really producing a workforce for economic development in Northern Colorado? Also, she'll be working on fundraising. So again, she'll be here on May 26th to give us a presentation about the program.
Okay,
Yep.
anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Then is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second. A motion on the floor from Mr. Redemeyer with a second from Dr. Jones to adjourn this evening. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. We are adjourned.
Madam Mayor, I would move that we reconvene our special board meeting.
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor for Mr. Rennemeyer with a second for Mr. Sislowski to reconvene our special meeting. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no.
And
There you go.
And we are reconvened. Let's take a 5-minute recess and then we'll reconvene in the back. Do you want?
Let's take the motion to go into executive session first, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
And then take a break.
Okay, an executive session, do you want me, can I read that, or who wants to read that?
Where's the executives?
Right here.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's... Madam Mayor, I move that we move into executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-402, subsection 4E and I, for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators with respect to franchise agreement renegotiation with our special counsel.
Okay.
second?
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, a second. All in favor, say, I guess we still have this. Vote yes, opposed, no. So we'll move into executive session in about 5 minutes.